Hi, this is Claudia Filos with the Center for Linux Studies. We're here today filming Office Hours, the fourth session with Gregory, Nagy, Allie, Marbry, and Leonard Muellner. And today we're really dealing with the fourth module, which is tragedy. So we're really looking forward to our discussion, and we have some questions that have come up from our community that we're hoping that you all could help us talk about and think through. How's that sound? Okay, so the first question, well, let me just say up front what the discussion topics are. One is we are looking to understand basically how the Furies are represented. We have some questions about sort of how we want to understand them as a feminized and collective representation of the unfinished business of angry heroes. We have a question about in what way does tragedy offer kleos, and how does the presence of the chorus affect that? So does that bring us closer to the class of heroes? Does it act as a bit of a buffer? Is it in our way as we're trying to connect with heroes? And then we were also, a member of the community was asking us to think about the timelessness of heroes, or the timeliness of heroes in tragedy, in particular Oedipus. So that's just a preview of the maybe 3 topics we'll talk about. If we have extra time, we can talk about a few other questions that the community has raised. But in the meantime, I thought it might be nice if we started with a question about the Furies and about how we're going to understand them and the way that they're envisioned. Do you have any thoughts about that, Greg?
No,
or Lenny?
Because I'm in the middle of this. I'm learning.
I'm so glad you used the expression unfinished business. And I used to have another word, but I can't put it together anymore. It was really 2 words, and it had to do with agenda. But I forget what I used to describe the agenda. But it's the same kind of thing. It's a kind of force that is left behind when someone dies, and they go to the grave. But if you go to the grave angry, somehow that anger has to come back and visit. Mm-hmm. And in French, the word for ghost is revenant, which means the one who comes back. Mm-hmm. And I can't help but think of Arnold Schwarzenegger in what was it, The Terminator. I will be back. So, return. And when you're worshiping heroes, you worry about this a lot. Is the hero angry at me? In which case, I and my community will get sterile and it will not prosper. Or is the hero happy with me, in which case I will be fertile and I will prosper along with the community. So that's the fear on the level of hero cult. But if you think about this fear and the anger that you fear, and you think of an abstract noun or even something that's concretized, that'll be a fury. And a fury is a kind of feminized personification of not just one hero's anger, but a whole variety of different angers. And it's just all concentrated in this mass of rage, and you better worship them. And when you worship them, it's interesting, it's spelled out in the Eumenides. You cannot, or you should not, pour wine to them, because their mental state is unstable enough. If you add wine, that could really set them off.
Right.
And that's where you can only pour water. Now, when you pour blood, that's another matter. As long as the blood is the blood of a sacrificial animal, then the sacrifice is correct. But you'll notice in the libation bearers and in the Eumenides that the speakers get very confused about what is being poured as a libation. And there's a lot of talk of human blood being poured as a libation, and that's the way people express how they lust for the blood of vengeance, shedding blood to avenge some killing that happens. And I always have to tell people these killings of humans are bad only if it happens outside of war. If it happens within your own community and you kill somebody within your own community, it's different. If we're talking about war, that's off limits. We don't think about blood guilt there. But just the idea that blood can be good only if it comes from the sacrificial animal. It's certainly not when it comes from somebody you've slaughtered.
So
What about
it's ritualized blood?
It's ritualized blood.
what about your own blood?
That's funny.
Did
People don't
anyone
get
ever
into
do
that. That's a good question.
There is also the myth about the creation of the Furies is that they were born from the drops of blood,
Right.
castration in the Hesiodic text.
Yeah.
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 So
So
they're
there.
that's a
And again, that blood is internal family blood. That's what makes it bad.
yeah.
But I like your question about shedding your own blood. That doesn't come up. Interesting.
Yeah. Is it also of interest that this sort of the fact that they have an external as well as an internal kind of function? That is, there are times when you see them externalized, and sometimes when they're portrayed as being within the, for example, at the end of the libation bearers, where all of a sudden Orestes starts to see them.
Oh, I see. Where
so that I don't think there is this
life.
distinction. I think that they're there whether we can see them or not somehow, right? And their presence is so powerful.
Yeah, I guess if you don't think of them, you don't see them.
Yes.
I'm thinking of those passages in the chorus of the Agamemnon, in the choral parts of the Agamemnon, where the crime or the wrongdoing that is envisioned as the stealing of nestlings from the nest of birds who are the parents of the nestlings, and how they scream bloody vengeance. But as soon after that moment, there's a reference to how the Erinus wakes up, and as if from hearing the screams, this force of vengeance is activated. And I think when it's activated, then it's not only something that can be seen, but something that can invade your thoughts.
Yes. And it's the kind of thing that you can't get away from, right?
They pursue you.
This notion of the buried anger is a really powerful thing.
Yeah. Can anybody think of a good adjective for agenda that I might have been using in years past? I can't.
No.
But anyway, unfinished business.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think I was using that. That's what you have in H24H, I think.
Yes.
At this point, but we should continue to think about that. I'm interested in this idea that things that you're raising about that you can't give them wine, right? Because of their phrenes, their mind needs to be sort of. We need to be very careful about what's happening with their mind.
And they have to be clear-headed, otherwise.
Yeah, you don't want to destabilize
them. Otherwise, we're in trouble. Yeah.
But also, what Lenny, you're saying is about this idea that they're always there, even when you can't see them. So, and Greg, you're pointing out that they're waking up, right? So there is this theme about watching and wakefulness. And having your naas or your phrenes in the right place, which of course I shouldn't point to my head. Right here is really where that would be. Your naas or your phrenes. Oh, you can't even see it, like down in your diaphragm. Yeah, you can't even see it in my camera.
That's right.
So I guess I don't know. That's making me wonder about anger, the anger of heroes, Lenny, because that's something you've thought a lot about too, right? And I'm wondering, there is this phrase about how you have to be watchful and ward off menace, or I think another kind of synonym is opus, right? So is that related, do you think? So sorry, 1 second. I'm going to put myself on mute and you keep going.
Okay, so in other words, it's that with menace, it's about a taboo, okay? But I think here it's something that's present in the world that needs to be dealt with, and that people have to come to terms with, and that obsesses them in a way that's difficult. So I think it's a different thing, and it's more like the katos concept, the anger that that you suppress at your own cost, okay?
Yeah,
it's
kind of a time bomb.
It erupts, a time bomb, yes.
Yeah.
And that erupts in a way that's out of control. Okay, so so it's different from menace, I think.
It's interesting. The very first time that our community has seen a fury was in Iliad 9 when Althea, the mother of Meleagros, is so angry at her son for killing her brothers. So in other words, Meleagros, aka Meleager, killed his maternal uncles. Very bad.
Very bad, yeah.
And so what she does is she just cries and cries and cries, and then she just drops on her knees and then starts beating the earth with a downturned hand. Thump, thump, thump. And some Edinus down there hears, and it gets activated.
It gets awakened, yes. Yeah.
And that's because, again, you've had the shedding of blood, not just within your own society, but within your own family. That's even worse.
Okay, well, how about the fact that the Furies are chorus, right?
Yeah.
And so they're dancing too, right? So their dancing feet are sort of
singing and dancing. They're singing and dancing.
Singing and dancing, yes.
Singing and dancing, and not only that, they morph into the good fairies.
Right. Right.
Because at the end, what do? They don't spew curses anymore. They exude blessings.
Right.
Everything gets fertile, and one thing I just so love is that they activate the wind, which again blows from the west. But now it's not an evil wind.
Yeah.
It's not an evil wind that drives the Achaean warriors across the Aegean to Troy, or that drives Cassandra to her doom, because she even says that the wind is blowing her in that direction. But it's a good wind now. It's a fertile wind.
Yeah. Okay, well, this might be a good time now to switch to our second topic, which is to talk about kleos in tragedy, and about the relationship of the chorus in conferring kleos, or how are we supposed to envision that, or what are some passages you might encourage us to look at or to think about?
Yeah. Do you mind if I fast forward? And then we have to go backwards.
Okay.
I'm going to fast forward to the very last tragedy we will read in the tragedy module, which is Bacchae,
right,
which is the way we pronounce the Latinized form of Bacchic women, or Bacchants, devotees of Bacchus. So do you mind if I keep saying Bacchae? I'm so used to doing it that way. In the Bacchae, it is Dionysus himself who prophesies that Pentheus, his human antagonist, will, as a result of the ordeals that he, Pentheus, suffers, achieve kleos.
right.
And the word is actually used, and I love it because here's one of the last pieces of poetry we read in this program.
Right. Can I read the passage, Greg? I think I know it. Okay.
Please.
I think you're thinking about around 970, 971.
That's right. You've nailed it. Yeah.
Oh, well, I pulled this up at a time. So you said Dionysus is saying, a man of terror, or Deinos. You are a man of terror. Deinos, again, is a key word. And you are going after experiences, that is pathos in the plural, that are things of terror. Deni. The result will be that you will find glory, that is kleos, reaching all the way up to the sky. Yeah. And then he goes on to talk about agon.
Isn't that something? So. It's just amazing. Yeah. It's just amazing. And you say, well, this isn't like a hero in the Iliad who's on the battlefield. And even Agamemnon gets this. It's sort of greatest epic hits where in Rhapsody 11, Agamemnon gets the credit for his greatest fighting moments, and so that brings you kleos. That's one of the most conventional ways we can imagine it. But certainly there's so many other ways to imagine it. Think of the much more complicated trajectory of Achilles.
Right.
And in the end, when the whole story is told, that's kleos. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't have to be the kind of deeds that we think of as heroic adventures or prowess in war. It can just be for suffering.
Suffering, right.
And that's what happens to Pentheus, whose very name means
his name, yes.
Mr. Sufferer, deserving of lamentation for his suffering, and that's good enough.
Yeah, the word pathos is just penthos. That's become the end has become an A.
So pathos and penthos are words that are related to each other, and so in that beautiful passage you read, Claudia, where the god of theater himself says, "You, the hero, will get a kleos that reaches all the way to the sky because of the suffering you endured in your agony."
Okay, and how about the course? Oh, go ahead, Letty. You have a comment, please. Please go.
Yeah, things about the pathemata of the hero in Argos. Isn't there a non-tragic? I'm trying to think. It's in Herodotus.
Oh, sure. It's Adrastus, and it's tragedies that are instituted by the maternal grandfather of a very important statesman in Athens, and Herodotus is telling us about how what these tragedies in this particular non-Athenian city had to do with the reenactment of the patheia, the ordeals, the sufferings of this particular hero. Pathos is everything.
Yeah,
it's suffering.
It's also I think we have so little about tragedy, and we have no tragedies from any other place than Athens. But it's important that we understand that this is a widespread phenomenon. Theaters all over Athens.
There were things like it.
And there were things like it.
There were things like it. Yeah. And of course, this same word, pathos, is, if you translate it into Latin, would be passio, as in passion.
Yeah.
And even the Christian notion of the Passion of Jesus, as beautifully set to music by Bach, for example, in the St. Matthew Passion, is all about this.
Yeah. And that's what happened. That's why we have the end of the Bacchae, because it was part of it became part of a Passion play.
Yeah, it was just taken lock, stock, and barrel and made into the sufferings of Jesus.
And if you're, let's say, in the audience, now is the audience, do we want to think about audience here in terms of tragedy, still participatory group, the group?
Let's say community. The civic
community. I like civic community. Okay, so let's say you're in the community and you are experiencing a tragedy as it is being performed. So what is that? If you experience this pathos, then?
Well, the nice thing is that once you get into that, if it's me, the person who has to go to Athenian State Theater because it's my civic duty, and it was the civic duty, and if you say, "Oh no, I can't do it," well, we'll pay you. We'll pay you your day's wages, and you go. Okay, I go to Athenian State Theater, and I bring with me my emotions. And guess what the word for what we call emotion is? It's pathos. So, in a sense, we little people, all 20 or 30,000 of us, we come together as the community that is reenacting the state. And what do? We let our emotions get connected with the larger-than-life emotions and sufferings of the hero. But when you say the pathos of the hero, then it's not just his emotions or her emotions. It's also the passion, the larger-than-life suffering, the kind of suffering that transcends anything that we little people can experience, and that's very Christian idea too, about the passion of Christ is much bigger than we are, bigger than all of us. Okay, and so similarly, the pathos of Pentheus is bigger than all of us, and we bring our own emotions there. And so what happens? Well, we go through a process, and the process is called catharsis. As Aristotle tells us in the Poetics. I mentioned that because you will all remember that in introducing tragedy, I have a little riff just before hour 16 saying, let's stop a minute and spend 5 minutes on what Aristotle thinks tragedy is. And Aristotle says, well, it's a purging of the pathos of especially pity and fear. And pity would be being attracted to suffering. Fear would be being repelled by suffering. So it's the opposite magnetic forces of how we react to.
This word catharsis can also have a ritual connotation.
Oh yeah, it's not just medical, and you know, there are
purging.
classicists who have spent their whole lives arguing that it's only one or only the other, but for heaven's sake, it's both medical purging, if you like, and it's ritual purification.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Okay. Okay, well, since we're thinking now again about some basic things about the hero, their experience, can we talk a little bit about the timeliness of the hero or the lack thereof in tragedy? So one of the things, you know, when we talk about heroes and we begin our project together, I think you outlined sort of 3 characteristics of the hero. Can you maybe just review those very quickly, Greg?
Sure.
Yeah.
I better get this right. Sometimes.
Oh, sorry.
Sometimes I just blank out.
Okay, sorry.
Or I reinterpret myself.
So the hero is extreme, right?
But okay, so we start with the hero is extreme, usually in a positive way, but it can be a negative way, and watch out if it's negative. Number 2, that the hero is antagonistic with the god, or that's 3. You see, that's number 3. The hero is antagonistic with the god or goddess who is most like him or her. But what's the middle one? That the hero is untimely.
Right. And so,
except in death. But
right.
now I worry whether I have it right.
That's beautiful. And so when the hero dies, suddenly everything gets in sync, right? So,
yeah.
And we were really thinking about when we first learned those concepts, when we're first thinking about the timeliness or the untimeliness of the hero, I think we're really thinking about the hero in epic, because that's what we're reading at that moment. But now that we're thinking about the hero in tragedy, does that change in any way? Is there anything different?
Well, I can illustrate it by how I did a big switch. I think in the middle of my career in doing this, we're talking about something that's been ongoing for, dear Allie, for 40 years now, or something.
Before you were born, way
before. Sort of halfway through this, I thought, you know, I'm not going to read the Oedipus Tyrannos first and the Oedipus at Colonus second. I'm going to switch them. And my answer to your question is simply developing the motivation for why I switched them. Even though Oedipus at Colonus, it tells you the story towards the very end of the story, and Oedipus Tyrannos is telling you the story in the midpoint.
Stages, yeah.
That's the logic of the sequence of events in the myths. I start with Oedipus at Colonus because here Oedipus is talking like a cult hero. And just to anticipate my conclusions, the problem with Oedipus Tyrannos is at the beginning, people are worshiping him, but he's not ready, and he shouldn't be worshipped because he's not a cult hero yet. He's being treated like a cult hero. So how's that for being untimely?
Great, yes.
And
got it.
I think the 3 characteristics of the hero, number 1, extreme. I think number 2 is timeliness. Isn't that how I do it?
Yes, that is how you do it. And so, I mean, that's really interesting too when we think about those passages, thinking back to the Odyssey and the Iliad, where we get these moments where we hear that someone was worshipped like a god, right? Even while they're alive. And you talk about that.
And you see in a strange way, Oedipus at Colonus shows us how Oedipus then finally becomes a perfect example of a cult hero, because when he gets to Athens, he's been expelled, eliminated. Eliminate in Latin means get driven out of the limen, out of the border. He gets eliminated from his own community, goes to Athens, and then in Athens he says, look, I'm a wretch, and I am polluted. And people, even in a democracy, believed in pollution. So you know, don't touch that person, he's contagious. I'm polluted, so please, Theseus, you as chief priest because Theseus is not just king of Athens, he's the high priest of Athens. Purify me. If you do that, I'll enter your grove, and I will become your cult hero, and I'll give you blessings. I'll give your community blessings forever. And wow, that's a textbook case of what a cult hero is. And then, as I say, then a couple of days afterwards, we read Oedipus Tyrannos, and they're worshiping him, and he's the cause of the pollution, but he doesn't know it yet. So, you know, this is just completely off.
Right.
Completely off.
So, those were the three questions that I was hoping that we would discuss. Is there anything that you'd like us to think about as we prepare for Module 5? Because we're moving now to Plato. I mean, there are certain things, I love that all the things that we've just been discussing, I think are so interesting when we start to think about Plato.
And Plato will be like this wonderful cultural historian. He's everybody's favorite uncle who just is so smart that he knows everything about Athenian song culture.
Right. And think, sorry, please.
No, that's it. No.
Well, I was thinking about things like as we think about someone going to their death angry, right? I mean, Plato's Socrates could go to his death angry. That's a possibility.
No, he so does not.
Right.
He's got perfect equilibrium.
Right.
So there'll be no unfinished business in a negative way there. But could I say about the hero who's not ready? It's not just Oedipus. I just started with that, but
sure. I
think if you scratch the surface, every one of the major characters in the tragedies we study is somehow really off. And just my favorite maybe would be Hippolytus, where Hippolytus just can't make the transition from the hunter who's going to be initiated into becoming a perfect bridegroom, and he just can't make the transition. It's impossible for him.
Right.
And so that's really untimely.
Yeah.
And the list goes on.
But Oedipus is a beautiful example too, because if you think about in the Oedipus at Colonus, the way in which he has these tirades in which he defends himself. The essence is that it wasn't, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, right?
Yeah.
And that, blaming him for this is making him the object of some kind of moral indignation is inappropriate, right?
Yeah, but you can't help it.
You can't help it. Yes,
I mean, we can't blame him, but
you can see in the end that that there's a kind of moral and psychological component to the process. Right? That after all the suffering, there's a kind of readjustment and an alignment that happens at the end. Right?
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing.
And I'm not putting you on the spot, Allie, but if you have any thoughts before we're just winding down now, I take it, and
yeah. Exactly.
No pressure, but any thoughts? Nothing at the moment.
Okay. No, this is great. Well, I think this is wonderful. I really appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to sharing this video with the community, and then we'll be on to Module 5, which opens in just a few days, and then we'll have one final office hour for Module 5. Okay.
Wow, that'll be fun.
Thanks.
It's hard to break away from this. I keep wanting to say, and then there's hero A and B and C.
Right. But that's okay. Well, we can continue the conversation on the discussion board, right? So.
Thank you, Claudia,
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Talk soon.